There is evil out there doing horrific things to innocent children. We pose as children online, and so we're a young girl, and we're pretending to be 11. I can't tell you how many times we get a direct message into our inbox, and the first image is a grown adult's male genitals. That is a layer of innocence that just got taken from us.
756,000 children go missing in America every year. Imagine 756,000 children gone.
Our mission is to protect and preserve the innocence of children here in the United States. Nearly 80% of victims are girls. Most trafficked girls get into trafficking because they fall in love with a guy. He knows how to manipulate them.
Up to 70% of male sex offenders, they themselves went through childhood sex abuse.
Parents, if you're curious, go onto your kids' followers and start looking at them. Here's some identifiers. How do we teach our kids how to be safe online? The number one place that children are recruited online is, and then that's the top three in order. I'm trying to stay calm about this, but you're either for protecting children or you're not for protecting children. We're talking about an elected official in law enforcement. I'm not going to call this person out, but this person knows who it is if they're listening right now.
Who is it? What does it truly mean to preserve the innocence of a child?
Wow, I think there's that sense of wonder inside of a child. You know, like it's like this trust. They believe in things that are hard for adults to believe in. You know, there's just this, I don't even know. It's like a commodity that they have that is just pure, really. Yeah. And that innocence is something that once it's gone, it's hard to get back. And so as adults, we go through trauma, we go through experiences, we have things that happen to us and we become maybe resentful, bitter, certain things happen, right? And so now we judge, we question, we lack trust, we have all these things that we build upon ourselves as we grow. And that eventually happens in life, right? But how do we preserve that childlike innocence for as long as possible? And so now going to what you just said, I think it's been there for generations.
Yeah.
We just have to protect our kids differently now.
How so? Like how do we protect kids in an age of technology versus, just watching over the neighborhood? We used to have the community, aunts, uncles, grandparents, they were all hanging out with each other. They would keep watchful eye over the children. And in our society, like our parents don't live in the state, right? They fly in, they visit. We're siloed. It's like families are siloed. And there's this lack of real unity within the family structure, and then stack technology on top of that. Whew, that's a Molotov cocktail for predation.
Yeah. You have to have strong communities too. So I believe that like where we live, my family's far away too in a different state. My wife's family's close, thank goodness. But we also built a community of people who may not be blood family, but these are people who, like when I'm gone and I travel, they're there for us. They're there for my wife. They're there to support us.
Yeah.
I also have men in my kids' lives who can be a male role model as well as me, right? And so somewhat protecting. But I think you could go way deeper into this conversation as far as like, what can we do? Like literally what can we do? Because it's very difficult times. And I don't think it gets much easier. I do believe this though. I think that because this generation is growing up with this technology, because we sure didn't, they're going to experience it and go through certain things, and they're going to be the ones that demand the change, right? Because they're the ones who faced it. I don't think that we want to. We don't know how because we didn't experience it. And so I do believe that this coming generation, as they grow older and they lived through this, they're going to be able to identify like, this needs to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I believe. I think it's happening. And I saw it actually at an event, a 24-year-old girl. We were sharing some pretty, I think, grade A level, like not even getting deep. And there were people gasping like, oh my gosh, really? That's what's happening? And she was actually more shocked that people who were shocked by it. She's like, this is my life for the last 10 years. Like, that was more shocking to her. So then at some point she's like, why is this acceptable? Right. And so they're going to be the ones that hopefully make the real change in the future.
Yeah. I love how we got connected, man. We got connected from a pure heart. Right? You have a pure heart. That's why I wanted to share your message, your story with the innocent. But I'm wearing a hat, y'all. If you're watching on Spotify and YouTube, it's called 756. 756,000 children go missing in America every year. It's just that number is catastrophic. I cannot even, it's easy to hear a number like that and be like, oh, okay, well, it's less than 1 million, or try to bypass it. But imagine for every parent who's with us, or every aunt or every uncle, or just anybody who's a friend to a child. Imagine 756,000 children gone. It's just so heartbreaking. And I believe, I'm curious how you feel, it is a product of a sick society. You know, Jay Krishnamurti said, it's no measure of an advanced civilization or a healthy society to be profoundly sick. And I think we're profoundly sick in the way that we view the family, in the way that we view mother and father. Look at all the kind of demonic washing energy about gender dysphoria and transgenderism. I'm not here to judge anyone. I'm just saying, like, there's a beautiful way that nature loves to work. And whenever we go against these laws of nature, we always find more trouble. There's always disaster. There's always chaos. So from a really high level lens, when you hear that number, 756,000 children go missing, and with the energy and the gravity of your mission with the innocent, what is the light you're shining on the darkness? We don't need to do a podcast on the darkness. Everybody knows it's there.
Yeah.
It's there. The darkness is there. What is the real light that you're shining? Is it awareness? Is it tactical and practical? Is it an amalgamation of all of it? Like, what's that light?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of all of it, but most specifically, we're going into communities and we're having a department, police department, host a training where my team of active duty law enforcement, and we have a retired law enforcement officer with years of experience investigating these crimes. They come into a community, one department hosts it, and they recruit through their relationships of all the other departments around the top investigators in that community from all the police departments, the sheriff's department. We put them in a room and we do a little classroom. We have to do the PowerPoint, go through the laws in that state. And then we run a live operation. We're essentially teaching them from start to finish, how do you run a live undercover proactive sting? So these guys are going and creating undercover identifications online because everything's online. It's not like you're meeting in alleyways anymore.
Yeah.
And you're out there on these forums and on these sites and in these places where this exists, where these guys are buying and selling sex. And so you go in, you train them, you give them roles, you give them responsibilities, and we're advisors. We leave, and then they continue to do this hopefully monthly or quarterly. And there's so much more to it. Like, it's hard for a department to be like, I'm going to dedicate 10 guys to this task force. But when you get one person or two or three from each department to come together, it's a lot easier. And then you really have like 2 or 3 that are really the ones leading the investigation until arrest day. And then so that's a lot of what we're doing is just training and giving law enforcement the skills, one, to do the investigations proactively, but also changing how they approach it. That, I think, is the most important part of all this, because law enforcement has been approaching these certain things. Maybe they weren't aware, or to identify or to ask more questions on a certain thing that may not feel right. But also, a lot of times they've looked in the past at like prostitution, and so they think it's a crime, right? Yeah. And so they go, they find the girl, arrest them for drugs, prostitution, all that stuff, give them a rap sheet. But what they need to understand is sometimes these girls, they didn't choose this life for the most part, right? Like, what 14 or 16-year-old girl like grows up praying, oh, I hope I get branded and beaten and have to sleep with all these guys every night. They don't do that, right? So instead of taking the approach of you're a criminal, how about you're a human and I'm not going to interrogate you. Actually, the first question I'm going to ask is, what's your favorite food? And then I'm going to go buy that for you. And I'm going to listen to you. And I'm going to respect you as a human, because a lot of those things have never happened. Somebody wants something from these individuals, always. And when law enforcement comes in and just starts interrogating, I need this, give me these answers, give me this. Man, it's just the opposite of what needs to happen. It could take 3 days before they voluntarily say, like, when are you going to ask me?
One thing I love that you said, and we're linking the site on the screen right now, it's theinnocent.org. In your video, you talked about really it's the prevention and the safety and precautions that we all can learn today, which is so important because, again, like, there's lights on us in the studio. Let's shine some light on the darkness here. Out of that 756, we know that 70%, up to 70% of male sex offenders, they themselves went through childhood sex abuse. And that makes me really sad because we know in the spiritual realm that, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It's also the law of thermodynamics, right? That's why emotional epigenetics, energy that is stuck in our lineage, transfers to children. And then those children become abused, and then they raise children and abuse them. It's a very vicious, sad cycle. So the way that we can zoom way out and stop the cycle is actually just to first be honest about what's happening.
Yes.
And I think at first Audible, I went through when we first got connected, I was angry. It messed me up the whole day. I was like, how dare these people? I want the death penalty. What's going on here? I want to say that I understand that kind of rage. I understand that really survival instinct, but it's definitely not moving us closer to where we want to be. How do we move ourselves as a society? I'm going really high level here, and then we can go deep. On a high level, why do you believe that innocence is not celebrated in public like it used to be? I think maybe it's social media, maybe it's parents splitting apart, divorce rates increasing. Let's shine some light on a high level as to why innocence isn't celebrated.
Wow, man, that's a great question. Celebrating? I don't know. I don't even, can you tell me when was it celebrated? I don't even know of a time when it was.
I think that before the industrial age, and our ancestors went through a hell of a lot, right? Just so that you and I could be here. So thanks to them. But what they had was they depended on each other. There was a strong father energy in the home most of the time, right? Now, granted, you could have the conversation about patriarchy and all that. That's too much in the weeds. What I'm saying on a high level is I think as we led up to the industrial age, and definitely before feminism, we saw that families were a cohesive unit. And the children were looked after. And it was a joy to have your children in the home and playing, and grandparents would come around, and people used to live in convergence on a farm or, in large clusters. We had a real container for families to be joyful and to celebrate the innocence of children. Like, a child milking a cow or a child riding a bike. Like, I think as the family has atrophied through the hooks and really society's predation on the family, I think that has taken us further and further away from celebrating what it is to be a child and acknowledging that children are so beautiful and so sacred. That's why Jesus put his children in all of his lectures, because he would tell the audience, have the mind and heart of a child and you'll hear me. If you have the mind and the heart of a child, you'll hear me. So it's written in biblical text. But I think on a very, society large lens, I think it started with the industrial age and then feminism that started to rip apart the family. And I think it just went really downhill from there. So I'll push the question back to you.
I wonder, I'm just curious if it's because so many people are living without real innocence. Like they're disconnected. They're attached to their phone. They don't have relationships anymore. All these community things, all these things you're talking about, like going and milking the cow, like how often does that happen?
Or even just going on a hike with your parents or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate enough, we live in the forest and some property, and my kids, don't get much TV or any electronics. Great. And they use their imagination. And I wonder if it's not so much celebrating innocence as just allowing innocence, right? And just allowing children to be children, like you had said earlier. I think we get caught up on all these we need to, we're concerned about my child has this and is diagnosed with that, and you're not doing this, or we're disciplining here. I think there's a place for discipline, but I don't think we need children to be parents, right? Like, you should know what I know at 40 some years old, and you should be acting like this. Like, their brain isn't even a quarter developed yet, right? Like they're wild, they're feral animals sometimes, right? And so allowing them to just be children, and I think we can easily just hand them a phone or an iPad or something and just distract them because us as parents can't handle it, right? We've gotten busy with life. We've gotten caught up in all the day-to-day stuff, and we just need a break ourselves. And so we pass that burden on to our children. It's like, I can't be with you right now because I need a break, and I need to sit down, and I need to take a chill, right? And so I can't be there for you.
Have you ever felt that personally? I have.
I would say so, but I'm very aware of that. And I almost call it like on demand. I want to be on demand. So when my kid's like, hey, Dad, will you play superheroes with me? And my first thought is no, I'm exhausted, right? That's my first thought. But then I'm aware of it. So I go, absolutely. And I go, okay, here we go. Get my energy
take some
up.
Deep breaths.
Even if I'm sore. So I've made it a point, because it's so easy to say no to my kids. It's so easy to be selfish, right? But that child never gets that experience back. that time back. Either do we. But I think instead of looking at it being selfish and looking at us and like, oh, I need a break, man. I've worked 16 hours today. I need some downtime. I can't even take it.
Yeah.
We can't do that, right? We have to prioritize children in many ways. But I think just saying yes. And I think that if people out there with children could just change that, reframe that inside their mind as like the automatic answer is yes. Even if you're in the middle of cooking, just be like, move it off the stove and be like, you have 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you play and then like come back to it.
Dude, I was listening to Jordan Peterson talk and he's like, you get 10 years with your kids.
Maybe
10 years if you're lucky. And so soak in every moment, even in the triggers, even in the challenge, even when you're tired. And I think when it comes to this concept of protecting children and protecting the innocence of children, to many parents, it may feel easy to have cognitive dissonance and push it to the side and just be like, oh, you know what, Nate, I live in a safe neighborhood and, you know, I trust everybody in my neighborhood, but it's just not the case. So I wonder if it's the emotional load, like the allostatic load of how much parents are dealing with that makes them just have the cognitive bias that their kids are safe. But the truth is that many of us are just never taught how to protect children. We think it's just instinctual, but our instinct
That's right.
must adapt to modernity. What do you make of that?
Oh, you're 100% right on. And especially in this time that we live in right now, we as parents have to learn how to protect them online. See, here's the thing with children these days. There's 37 million teens under the age of 18 that are on social media. 37 million. That's a humongous number.
It's massive.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if the children are online on social media, most parents, you know, at some degree didn't have social media growing up. Now the parents are starting to be like, yeah, I grew up with social media, but these platforms are available and they're out there. And I can get into the weeds on all that too. It's like, how are they enabling some of this behavior? Because, you know, kids' identity, here's another part of it, is directly related to how many friends they have or followers, right? And their popularity and all that. So they're letting everyone in. Come on in, be my friend, right? And then algorithms start to kick in. People are going on to somebody who has 1 million followers, you know, mostly women followers, finding the moms, following them, finding the children, and then maybe even going in through that angle and starting to psychologically build relationships, you know, with young adults, with women. It doesn't have to be kids. It's all across the board. And so these platforms, I think, are part of the problem, but we haven't learned how to really manage that, right? I use this one all the time. When our kids are about to turn 16, do you know what kind of course we put them through to get a driver's license? It's insane. Like many, many hours of driving, like tests, and then you have to physically go with a stranger, sit in a car, prove to them that you know what you're doing, and then take a computer test, right? Like it's like years worth of like getting ready to go be safe. And then we put airbags around them and sensors and all the stuff, right? But we really need to teach them how to drive safe and be aware and keep your, you know, surroundings, what's going on around you all the time. Yeah. It's the same thing, but here's what happens is like, well, you're not having a phone until you're 16. Okay, happy birthday, here's your phone with no training, right? And so how do we teach our kids how to be safe online? What are the dangers of online? And most people I think are thinking that like, well, I got to restrict you from this site and you can't go here and you can't go there. That's only part of the problem. I think some of the biggest issues that young children are facing is it's not that they have access to the world. That's one of it. The world has access to your children wherever that phone is, right? And so if they're going into their room while you're cooking dinner and they close the door, that phone, there's no regulations right now. Like even Hollywood has regulations like PG-13, rated R, you know, like there's no regulations on the internet, right? There's no restrictions. There's sites that I'm not even going to attempt to try to explain to you that how are they legal, right? And so I think that us as parents trying to get educated, but things change so fast and happen so quick, and new apps are popping up and new technologies like disappearing messages and all these things. It's hard to stay up on all these things and all these trends, right? And so how do we? Parents have to learn.
There's a lot here. We're going to go into that. But the analogy that I was feeling when you were talking, it's a great analogy, by the way. Why would we not put them through 6 months of social media training like we do for them to get a driver's license?
It's way more dangerous.
Some of the times on the podcast, it's like somebody just rings a gong on my head. I'm like, duh, why wouldn't we do that? But we have a pool and I have a safety fence, but it's not a total safety fence. And so we had people that came over and they were like, you need to be very careful of your children around the pool and you need to put up a pool fence. And we were like, no, we're actually just going to train them to swim.
Duh. Yeah.
It's so obvious to us. Well, well, what if they go outside? It's like, this is the methodology that I'd love for you to talk about when it comes to protecting a child by making that child feel sovereign and whole.
Yeah.
Because we could train our children that they always need a fence around the pool.
Right.
Or we could train our children how to swim.
Because guess what happens? One day they learn how to climb the fence.
Nova already fell in the pool once and he climbed out and got out. We were like, we love you. Great. Yeah. Let's do more training.
Exactly.
Yeah. And why don't we do this when it comes to the internet? It's so wild.
I don't know. Time. People don't have the resources. They don't care. They're too consumed by their own relationship with the internet and social media. Here's the thing. And people always, this is one thing that I advise parents, and I know there's people watching right now that do this. I'm not giving my kid any phone and they don't have any access to social media. I'm like, well, that's great, but their friends do. And if you think they're not on their friends, and guess what? When they turn 18, they will have it. Yeah. So set them up for success. Yeah. Like just start having those conversations. Here's the other thing when it comes to teaching and building those parameters, like teaching them how to swim, we need to have conversations with our boys about not asking girls to send photos. We used to teach our kid like, hey, you open the door and hold it for somebody. Yeah. Those were just common things, right? Say please, say thank you. Part of what we need to start teaching, because we live in this world, is you never, ever, ever ask a girl to send you photos of her, period. Like, when are we doing that? And how about this? How about just respect women? When did those conversations stop happening? Mm-hmm. When did they stop happening as actual characteristics of individuals? Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of human pieces to all this too. It's not just child sex crimes, and it's humanity. Like, where are we becoming detached and disassociated from reality? It's
Krishnamurti's quote that you cannot judge a healthy society if it's fundamentally sick. And I think this goes back to my question of the sickness. We are all so, quote, busy with doing things to impress other people that robs us of our chi or our energy to be present for our children. Full stop. Like, that might be very confronting to someone. I know it has been for me in the past. The question of the pool and the fence and the driver's license and the online training, where do we begin? I'm sure parents are on the edge of their seat, or if they're driving, like, this hits my heart very severely, because I can't even imagine ever having my son or my daughter victimized in that way. And I'll do everything in my power to train them to be whole so that they don't fall into that trap. Where does the training process come from for parents first? Yeah. So that we know, and then next to our children, it's a wholeness conversation. Yeah. It's not you could be a victim fear conversation.
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying it's never too late to start, but it starts with a relationship. You have to build these safe places, build this trust with your children in a real relationship, right? And when I say real relationship, that means put down your phone, have your own restrictions. Parents are so quick to put like all these restrictions on kids and their phones, but they have none on themselves, right? So lead by example, monkey see, monkey do. If you're connected to your phone and social media all the time, your kid's probably going to be like that as well. Yeah. So how about going back in time to where parents didn't have phones and we actually connected, asked people over dinner? How about a dinner table conversation? But building a relationship. And I think the most important part of the relationship is a safe one. I can't tell you how many times I've heard of children saying, hey, mom, I'm not proud of this, but I was texting with this kid and I probably shouldn't have done it, but I sent this picture of me and then he's sending me photos and now he's telling me that he's going to share them and all this stuff. And they go, you did what? How could you? I understand how a parent, and I would feel the same way, but feeling one way and how you act are completely different. Because what's best for the child in that moment is to say, like, meet them where they're at. That's the best advice. I don't care if they're 2, 12, 18, 30. Wherever they are, you have to show up wherever they are and meet them there. Don't meet them where you are. Meet them where they are. That's the same with law enforcement. I was explaining earlier. They're in a very hurt place, embarrassed, shame, all these things that are going on. The last thing they need is for you to come down on them and then validate their feelings of that they're stupid, shameful, all those things. Is just comfort them. As a parent having young children and you see them throwing these tantrums and you don't understand it, and all you do is pick them up and hold them and it goes away. You're like, oh, because they just need you to be there. That's it. They just need you to listen. And so the first place to start, have that relationship with your children. And you're going to have to prove it. You have to prove it. You can say it. Oh, you won't get in trouble as long as you tell me the truth. But then you actually have to follow through with that, right? Because it's more important that you are able to have those conversations so that then they know that you're actually there to protect them and you're not there to like ground them, you know, and it's hard. And this is a difficult conversation for parents with phones and social media and certain things.
I can relate. I mean, when I was young, we went to go live with my dad in high school. He was a very authoritative guy. No openness, no connection really. Did the best he could, right? Has his own stuff. And I remember he found condoms in the dryer and he was like, "Are these yours?" Really angry. And I'd never had the relationship with him where I could just share honestly. And so I was like, "No, they're my brother's." I just lied to him.
Yeah, of course.
And he went behind my back and told my girlfriend at the time, my very first girlfriend, that, you know, her dad happened to be an IFBB pro bodybuilder, by the way. So it put the fear of God in me. And we ended up breaking up and I moved out of the house and I was like, wow, you know, here at 45, I'm like, that could have been avoided if there was the honesty and the spaciousness for me to just tell him, I am having sex with my girlfriend and I don't want to get her pregnant. I'm using condoms. Can you just be proud of me for taking precautions, right? But instead he went the route of fear because, like you said, he hadn't modeled it himself. There wasn't that model within him that I could trust. So this is a very emotionally intelligent part of the conversation that actually goes full spectrum into preserving the innocence of a child. Because in my opinion, I don't know how you feel, I think all the way up to 18, you're a child. And to be honest, many people past 18 are still children.
That's absolutely right.
Like they're still children.
And you're right, because how do you on May 10th be 17 and then on May 11th, you're now 18.
Right. You're all of a sudden an adult.
You just switch, like it's a switch.
Yeah.
No, the brain, even in girls whose brains develop much quicker, their brains aren't even fully developed still at 18. Right. So we've made up a number. Some people sat around a table and were like, I think it should be 18, but they still can't buy alcohol till they're 21.
Well, that was because of military enlistment, I believe.
I believe so too, of course.
Yeah.
How you can, 18-year-old can go on 3 hours of sleep for 4 months and work all day.
They make great soldiers.
Absolutely right. That doesn't mean that they're an adult by the standards of science and biology. Yeah. Let's just be honest. And not only that, what about with life experience? I don't know at what point do I even look back in my life. It might have been around like 26 when I feel like, oh my gosh, I think I'm becoming an adult. Like
I think for me, it was in my 30s, dude.
Really?
Yeah.
No, but I said becoming. I don't think I was fully an adult.
Got it.
I think at 26, I was becoming because I went through certain things that I learned and I was like, God, that was stupid. I probably shouldn't do that. And then I started building those practices in my life to say like, okay, I think I got it together. I don't need somebody else to tell me like, oh, here's all these guidelines and rules to follow. Yeah. I think I have my own set of rules now that I understand from maybe mistakes I made or whatever it may be, right? But I don't think that at 18, you can just be like, put it this way. Are you okay that like, hey, a 51-year-old male wants to have sex with my 16-year-old and that's wrong. But if she was 18, it's cool.
Yeah, that's a no.
Yeah, of course it's a no.
That's a no.
Well, of course it is. So that's what I'm saying. Like it does the whole 18 adult, you know, I think we need to have these conversations. That's why earlier I said, it doesn't matter if they're 30, you know, all the way up because you still need to be a parent. I dream of the day. I have great parents. They're still married, all these things, but you know, they came from a different era. And, you know, I would love to be able to have real conversations. We had this talk before we started here. It's like, you just want to have those deep, connected conversations where you can ask for guidance or a mentor that can teach you about life and those type of things too. That's part of probably protecting that innocence.
But if that conversation is so good, if that conversation, Nate, wasn't blessed to that now father or now mother, they don't have the faculty. They don't have the mental faculty or the emotional intelligence to have that conversation with their child. So you talked about this in the video. It's like by the time the abuse happens, it's almost too late. So really what we're talking about here is starting with the parental unit so that when the baby is being carried and when the baby comes out and becomes an infant and a toddler and a child and a young adult, that's really the root of the healing that I think Krishnamurti was talking about. If we can fundamentally heal the seed of parenthood and of spaciousness and of real ability to just, let's be honest, be ourselves. We just want to be ourselves with our parents. We don't want to feel rejected. We don't want to feel like our parents are going to come down on us for us just being authentic. I think that's the most powerful thing we could do. yes, I want to get into the tactical things with you because they're super important. And I'm just generally curious too.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know I could do a much better job of the tactical protection of my children. But do you have anything else that you want to mention about the emotional intelligence?
Well,
of
yeah,
the
I think that you just mentioned like parents don't have the tools if they didn't get taught them, but they have the responsibility and the duty as the protector and the guardian of their children.
Yeah.
It's their responsibility.
Yeah.
So find the tools. They're out there. There's a lot of them.
This podcast is one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so do some due diligence, put some time and energy into one of the most important things is another human's life that you're about to deliver into the world and hopefully adds to society. So as a parent, it's the most important job and role in life. A parent, that's the most important job. A lot of us, including myself at times, get that messed up. We get, especially with what I do, I get so driven and so focused and so passionate. I feel like sometimes I can mess up the order of priorities, right? And I have to check myself. And I have a great team around me and wife and people who are always constantly, and I'm asking for the feedback because people don't just offer it. That's another clue to parents, like ask.
Yeah.
We have to take that responsibility to go out and figure out what those tools are, to become the best human so we can be the best parent so that we can create the next best generation. That's what I believe, what we need to do.
That's the beginning of, that's the origin of love and of capacity itself to be able to be a great parent, even if you weren't parented well. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
So like, accept the challenge, y'all. It's okay. It's okay. I'm giving myself and you and all of us full permission to let go of being a victim from our parents and just being a victim in general, because the challenges that we go through, whether it's capital T sexual trauma or many lowercase t traumas, they make us who we are.
That's
whether,
right.
Whether we want to acknowledge that or not. And so we don't have to serve that our pain clouds our wisdom. We don't want our wounds to cloud our wisdom, but we do get to have wisdom that's transcendent from our wound. And that's the hard part, is being an adult. And so once we've done the work to be an adult, can you share with us the tactical things that parents can do? Because I can only imagine the stuff you've seen and how you've learned over time to be able to give this kind of really life-saving, truly life-saving tactical information. I'd really love for you to get into that because it's so profound and I don't know a lot of it.
Yeah. So again, start with the relationship, number one. Right now, I think kids with social media, it's catching on because kids are experiencing these conversations. They got to lock their accounts down to be private. So they have to actually let people in instead of people just following and doing that. Here's why. And this is probably more important because this is how my brain works. Don't just tell me what to do. Tell me why I should be doing it. When our mission is to protect and preserve the innocence of children here in the United States, what we see online is we pose as children, right? Online. And so we're a young girl. And what we see is as soon as these guys see your profile, and it could go off of locations or whatever, which turn those off, by the way, and you should never have disappearing messages. We'll get into that. But here's the thing. I can't tell you how many times, it's unfortunate we live like this, that we get a direct message into our inbox and you click on it and the first image is a grown adult's male genitals saying, rate my blank. At 11, we're pretending to be 11. I imagine that's probably the first time she's ever seen that. And it's probably shocking and somewhat traumatizing, right? And embarrassing. And she's certainly not going to go tell anyone about it. Mm-hmm. That is a layer of innocence that just got taken from her, right? I mean, I don't know many women my age that can be like, oh yeah, I was 11 when I saw my first grown male. Like I just, we're in a different time. So that's where the innocence starts to get taken. So parents, these are conversations to have. Lock those accounts down. Here's the other thing is they're going to start, everybody's heard the word grooming, but what does grooming mean? Grooming is building a psychological bond that's stronger than a physical bond. So they'll come in and they'll start by telling them things that most girls don't hear. Most grown women don't even hear from their spouses. Like, wow, you're stunning. Like whatever. They're just filling them with certain things. Like, hey, I run a modeling agency. You ever thought about being a model? You can make $350 an hour. And to a kid, that kind of money is extraordinary. Like, well, what do I got to do? Oh, it's easy. Have you ever, like, do you wear a bathing suit by the pool? These are real conversations. Do you wear a bathing suit by the pool? Well, yeah. Well, it's basically that. You're wearing pretty much just a bathing suit and you just pose in it. Like, oh, and then they build this curiosity. So there's those type of things will happen. And then who knows where those conversations lead. And then maybe there's photos being shared and trusting no one is hard because you don't want to act like that and live like that. And I'm probably oversensitive to this because I look at what's happening online and how many young girls, because the most of the part, it's like nearly 80% of victims are girls. And man, I've had conversations with them. I actually had a conversation with a boy too. You know, he had a little bit of a disability, but they full on believe that they're in love, right? Like, you can't tell me this person's creepy and that what their behavior is illegal. And, you know, like, I love this person. And that's the tactic that they're using. Most trafficked girls get into trafficking because they fall in love, right? They fall in love with the guy that he knows how to manipulate them. You can see it in their relationship. He just does the things that all the girls want, right?
Is typically their father not in the equation?
Yeah. So great question. And yes. And I will say it's not just that the father's not, that has so many complex levels. So let me break down like three of those. One, the girl needs a positive male role model in her life. That's just biology. So you have to be there. And I'm not talking like you have to live in the home, but even if you're divorced, you have to be a presence. They need it. Girls, boys too. Girls need that male role model, that male presence in their life. That's one thing. They also need that attention from the opposite sex too. Not like a dad has to say the things that these kids are saying, but they need to also say like, you're so beautiful inside and out. And like, just tell them the things that, they need to hear that from their dad.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But here's the other thing. And I think his last name's Reynolds. But you can look this guy up online. He was a guy who was arrested for basically molesting many children and they were interviewing him, and he did an interview and he said, they asked him like, when you chose your victims, what would you look for? Well, they would look for all these things, like insecurities, broken homes, certain things. But the number one thing that this guy said he identified with was the father. If the father felt like, he was a threat, he skipped right over it, because why would you go to a hard target when there's a soft target right here that I could easily go, there's no father in the picture.
What makes the father a real threat?
I think that, I think a physical threat, but also just a presence there. Like, you're in the life, you're part of her life, you're around her, you're at her games, you're just present.
So he has situational awareness. So when he goes into a cafe, whether he's trained in the military or not, he knows to scan the room. He knows how to scan for threats.
And he's with her to go get a smoothie, to go get a sandwich, take her to ice cream. He's around. He's there. If they're tracking that there's a person in the middle between them and the daughter. There's somebody there. Even a woman isn't as much of a threat between a predator. They feel like they can manipulate the mom. And actually they do sometimes. They go through the mom to get to the child. And so being a physical threat, number one.
So being in healthy shape, having like a muscular stature.
Well, yeah. I mean, these guys don't feel like if they look at you and you're not a threat, they're just going to go right down that lane. And then that could pursue into something. I'm not gonna say it's totally going to avoid it, or anyone who's not a physical threat is going to be, their child's going to be a victim. Not at all. I'm just saying, according to this guy, if the dad was a threat, appeared to be a threat, he wouldn't waste any time.
Yeah. Right? This is why every father gets to train to be dangerous.
Yeah. And let's just be masculine. I'm sorry, but
you don't need to apologize for being masculine.
Yeah. But I mean, we're good. That's where I think that a lot of society is confused, right? And all this stuff that we're talking about, we've talked about a lot of stuff. And I know we kind of skimmed over some things, but a lot of this comes down to, what is society feeding us to confuse us on what's right?
Yeah.
Right?
Dude, when I want to go back to what we missed, so we'll make sure we circle back, because there was some more tactical for sure. My question for you, and from Meta, I hope the AI is listening. Why the hell, with all the technology we have, where you can build an entire program in 5 minutes using AI, and AI can scan through all the billions of videos on YouTube for anything, Why on Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok is there not hard boundaries and red lines in place to AI sniff out these predators? Why is that not a meeting that Facebook has every day, that TikTok has every day? The answer might shock us. What is that answer?
I wish I knew that answer, but I've actually questioned and had conversations, and I've heard the canned responses as well. Oh, they'll have to be 18 to have an account. Well, we're not promoting this and that. Here's the reality, and they can't argue this because we filmed it. We filmed it on our phones with a fake account, 14-year-old, 14/F, female account. And when we start accepting one account, one guy, one 51-year-old male, as soon as you hit accept, not only is he inboxing you like, hey, babe, 5 more are being pushed, enabling the same profile, which here's what the profile looks like. By the way, parents, if you're curious, go under your kids' followers and start looking at them. Here's some identifiers. No one's following them. No one, or 7 people are, but they're following 2,500. And then you look at the people they're following, that'll give you an idea of the type of people they're looking for.
Yeah.
Now they're following your child too, right? For whatever reason. And so why is this algorithm saying, oh, well, your profile of a young child and this profile of this whatever should meet? I should actually, next time at the grocery store, try this out for size. See a really young girl, maybe she's with her mom, hopefully not with her threatening dad, right? But just find a random dude who's shopping and be like, hey, can I introduce you to somebody real quick? And go up to that 9-year-old and be like, I think that you guys should meet, and see how the parent reacts. But right now, while people are listening and hearing that, they're like, feel weird about that.
Of course.
And they should.
Of course.
Right?
Why would you ever do that?
Why would you ever do that?
Yeah.
It's happening every day, dude, all the time. So again, we filmed this, so I'm not making this up. And if these people want to come after us with their $21 billion, they can, but accept 5 more, accept. Well, now the algorithm is really starting to get into gear. AI 10 turns into hundreds. And now you're not even just going into the people that are in your neighborhood. You're being plugged into people all over the world, sickos everywhere, right? Because these algorithms, based on how you have them set up, they can just introduce you to people in the Netherlands where they're trying to like make it legal to have sex with children.
So then that's a whole nother part of the podcast. So then where does the responsibility lie in the same way that cities put up stoplights so cars don't crash into each other? In the same way where there's a city that has, like in San Diego I used to live, they put up fences so people wouldn't fall off the cliff.
Yeah.
Where does the role of these billionaires, mega billionaires that basically run the technocratic world, where does that rely on their responsibility to be the shepherds of this platform and platforms they've created?
Well, we're assuming they have some sort of morale compass that
You don't think they do?
governing by. How could they? If this evidence is presented to them and they're not doing anything about it, I can't figure it out. I'm not blaming them, but I am blaming them for creating a technology that they aren't safeguarding our children. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to be very clear though, because I did go and meet at the Xbox headquarters in Redmond, Washington, where they have over 500 employees that all their job is safety for their video gaming systems. One of the best. I mean, it's amazing. It is amazing.
How do we get Meta to talk to Xbox?
Yeah. Now, are there always people trying to channel and figure out certain ways? Yeah, but they have their own team trying to do that because the new CEO said like, hey, if we built this technology, it's our responsibility to protect our kids.
This is another moment.
It's a duh.
It's so true.
So, but you also have to think about this. Some of these social media companies are monopolies. Let's just be real, right? There's not very many that compete, and 2 of the biggest ones are owned by the same guy, right? And we know, this is just facts. The number 1 place that children are recruited online is Facebook, Snapchat, and then Instagram. That's the top 3 in order. So 2 of those are owned by the same company, right? So at what point do these monopolies, that's my thought on this. I know people try to come up with new social media all the time, but it's not working for them. And they'll just get bought out, I'm sure. I hate government regulations. Trust me. That's why I live in Idaho, because we're free. But I will say that at some point, should the government sanction them to like prioritize our children? And that's a whole nother conversation I love to get into is, when is our government going to prioritize our children and declare this war for innocence, like the war on drugs? So our government has to come in and start putting sanctions. Like when I was a kid, I'd go to Blockbuster with my dad, and there's this room back in the back corner that had a half wall built around. And I was like, Dad, what's back there? He's like, oh, nothing. Right? You know what was back there? Anything that you type, you could find way worse than what was back in the back room at any age. No restrictions. It's just free to you.
24/7.
24/7 all the time.
Yeah.
Like here's another funny thing. I love going back in time. Go to a gas station and there's like magazines behind when people bought magazines, but the Playboy ones have a black cover over it that just says Playboy at the top. She's not even naked on the front page. Are you kidding me right now? Do you know what's on Instagram? Like in all these things, like these girls and these feeds, like what happened to regulations? And again, I hate regulations, but not if it's for protecting our children.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. I'm actually for that and kind of intervening, because I can't rely on these people being responsible and having a moral compass, man. I honestly can't personally.
I understand you hate government regulation, and so do I. I get it. That's part of why we moved to Texas, although there's still too much regulation here.
There always will be.
But we live on land. I have the podcast studio here. Like, we wanted to ground in and nestle in somewhere where we at least had perceived autonomy, right? That's a whole nother conversation if you look at common law and the United States corporation. That's for another show. Actually, we'll link in the show notes if you guys want to go deep on that, the conversation we had with Alex Zeck and Aaron Abke and Luke Story on common law. But where I'm really going with this is the responsibility of anybody that creates anything. I have a responsibility with the podcast, right? And my responsibility is to suss out lies and illuminate truth. That's my responsibility. It's a sacred responsibility. You have a responsibility as a father, and so do I. Whatever we create in this world, whether it's a car, a podcast, clothing that has plastic in it, whatever, I think what we're really touching on is back to Krishnamurti, right? We cannot say we're a healthy society if we're fundamentally sick. So whether it's clothing or pornography or anything else, really this is a call to arms for all of us to just have some fucking integrity, to just have some integrity in what we do. And if we're out of integrity, just have the courage to be honest about it and raise our hand and be like, hey, I fucked up. Yeah, that's what I feel like Mark Zuckerberg needs to do. Raise your hand and be like, hey, I'm really sorry we fucked up. Here's what we're going to do to make it right. Instead of just kicking the can down the road and watching the billions of dollars come in from ad revenue. This is really the social construct that we're butting up against in this conversation. Do you agree? Or how do you see it?
100% agree. 100% agree. It's their responsibility. Now, look, in my life, most of the critical learning I've done is from mistakes. Like you said, hey, just say, you know what? I couldn't see all the future, but now that I am actually living in it, I can say I messed up and we need to change how we are going about doing this. And we need to put in some safeguards, guardrails, like you said, right? For our children so that they're not being targeted online. And if they don't think it's happening, man, I would love to sit down and show them what's going on. I'm sure people have, but if you can look at what we see and you can honestly go to sleep at night saying like, well, we're doing the best we can. Oh man, we have a long ways to go.
Yeah, we're definitely not doing the best we can. Part of why I am so passionate about epigenetics and especially emotional epigenetics, I talked about it earlier. Energy and motion cannot be, stopped unless you free it. It's going to eventually build up, and it's going to leak out sideways. That's what it was for me with pornography. I saw a magazine on my dad's table when I think I was like 11 or 12. First time I'd ever seen a pubic hair on a woman. I had all these like sparks going off of my body. Like that was my introduction, right? Then it was VHS. Then it was DVD. Then it was internet. And when the internet came alive in the early 2000s, it was like game, set, match. I mean, it was like over 2 decades of pornography addiction that led me into just complete disassociation with my own sexuality. Womanizing, having partners, having unsafe sex, doing all kinds of things that I actually look back on myself and I'm grateful that he at least had that, because he might have done something else. He might have done cocaine. He might have done hard drugs. Like the pornography actually kept him alive. Yet we don't have to suffer in that way if there's safety and if there's unity with society and with families. This is a society and a family conversation. This isn't about putting a blocker on your son's phone or telling them they can't ever have a phone or that they shouldn't watch porn. Whatever we resist persists, and we don't need Napoleon Hill to tell us that. If we tell our children, no, 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 that's why preachers' daughters tend to be the most sexualized, because they've been hijacked and they've been pushed into a corner that they can't ever learn about their sexuality. So where do we go from here, right? Like, where do we go as parents? Where do we go as a society that can be really step-by-step tactical? You talked about the awareness of the blocks on the accounts. You talked about the person who would suss out if the father was strong or not. What are some other things that we as parents, because it starts with us. It starts with us parents, man. That's the beginning of this whole conversation, right? I don't blame my father. I don't blame my mother. Like, it happened for me, and here I am with you. It's beautiful. We get to have this conversation, right? And it's part of who I am. So I accept that part of myself. And I actually love my fiance and I love my children more because I've been in the pit of hell. I've seen the demons on pornography. I've been there. And so it gives me the emotional capacity to know what I really desire, which is sex from a place of unity and a place of creation of God. That's what sex really is. So where else can we be practical? Where else can we be tactical as fathers and as mothers?
Well, one, you've touched on this many times, and so I'm going to touch on it again. We got to stop blaming our parents and taking responsibility for our own life. We can't just let our behaviors be thrown to the side because, well, it's my parents' fault, right? Take some responsibility. But I think also, man, I can only tell you from my personal life experience, I don't have all the answers. I can give you all the tech things and all the cool little bark apps and all that stuff, but I can tell you what works so much for me. And one is being honest with your kids. So even at a very young age, people are like, oh, I don't want to have this conversation. Having the conversation is much easier than your child going through this type of stuff. Trust me. And the healing that has to come from it. Even at a very young age, be honest with your children. You know, people want to avoid this conversation, but my kids know, like, at 4 and 6, no one touches their private parts. And if they do, they tell an adult. One, they make as much noise as possible. They tell an adult and we're safe. There's certain rules and boundaries. I'm like, who should even be seeing that part of your body, right? And I think that for me, what we do, and now look, I don't have teenagers, so it's hard for me. I can only go off of parents and certain things, but this is what we do in my house, man. We got rid of TV. We don't have TV. Right? I don't have social media. I don't even get on my phone the first hour of the day. Like, I look at it like going back in time because you brought up for generations and all this stuff about community and why are we missing so many things? And I think it's because of the society that it's normal to us now. So how do we go back to an unnormal society that used to be normal? So like me, like my kids know that we have chickens and we grow a bunch of our own food and we shoot wild animals and that's what we eat, and just kind of getting rid of the noise. That's what I call it. It's a lot of noise, man. And you know what it does to me? It causes anxiety. Honestly, I used to be addicted to the phone and social media. Even now, like, we have a social media presence that's gaining. And at first I was like, oh my gosh. Now I'm like, I don't want to read one comment. I don't want anything to do with it because all it does is destroy my peace. Bringing peace back into the home and bringing unity back into the home, I think, is the number one thing, right? Like, we made a rule. Every night we want to sit down as a family for dinner. And that's hard. Trust me, sometimes it's hard, dude. But that's an important piece that I think Americans have lost. Also, Sunday, can we take one day? That's what we do. We pick Sunday. Can we take one day where it's just about us as a family being together? No birthday parties, no things, like, that's our family day. We need one day a week where it's just us. No school. Dad's not going to work. Mom's not doing whatever. It's just us. And so I think that getting back to those clearing off the plate moments, we carry a lot on our plates. Even moms carry a lot on their plates. Like, dads work, moms are stay-at-home moms, but they have all this stuff to do. And where do we rest? Where do we just clear stuff off? I
love that you said create a peaceful home. I mean, it's literally the journey that we're going through right now. So my son is 4, about to be 4. My daughter's 2. And the peace in our home is a point of conversation at the highest level right now, because with peace, his nervous system can regulate. So can my daughter.
That's right.
When I'm telling the truth, he trusts me. Like yesterday, he was at the pool. It was like 15 minutes. I was like, go get your towel. And I just stood there and we had this like war of the minds. You ever had a war of the minds with a 4-year-old?
Yeah.
Parents, you can relate. 15 minutes for him to get his towel. And then finally he comes in. You know what he does? He goes, and he breathes out. And then he starts playing with his toys and he's calm. If I would have kowtowed, I would have given up and not stood ground for him as a parent and said, no, your job is to get your towel right now. I'll wait till you're ready. And looked at him like I mean business, then he doesn't respect me. And I think what I fell into a lot is, God bless my father and my mother. They were dealing with their own things. There were so many moments where I just didn't respect them. And because there was a lack of respect, I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe as a child. It's not to make them wrong. It's just, thank you for that contrast so that I can be different with my children.
Yeah.
And so teaching my children that our home is safe, our home is peaceful, you are whole, you are complete. Nobody touches your sex organs. You're the only person that ever gets to touch those. And if anybody ever touches you, no matter what they say, you immediately come and tell an adult or you tell mom and dad. These are the fundamental values that deserve lots of time, lots of airplay, lots of communication.
Yep.
They can be glossed over really fast.
Oh,
but
man.
that if people just like literally share the podcast right now with somebody who's a parent, or if you yourself are feeling a little bit of guilt, that's fine. Turn that guilt into inspired action by listening to this a few times. Do all the things that you've said, Nate, and that I've mentioned, and then go to the tactical. The tactical ain't going to mean shit if the home isn't peaceful, if your children don't respect you. Full stop.
Right. Do you want chaos or peace? That's really what it comes down to. I don't want chaos and anxiety. And our society is so full of it right now, anxiety. And that's why people are getting diagnosed with so many things. And then they just want to just feed them stuff.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going back to my own life. I'm not telling everybody what to do. I'm just telling you what I do. Remove as many layers of chaos from your life. And this is what I call it. My wife and I, this is what we call like, let's get back to simple living. Like, let's just be simple. Like, you know what my kids actually love doing more than watching TV? Because they don't get to watch TV really, unless there's a very rare occasion. Build Legos. You know, like, how about instead of saying like, oh, just watch something while I make dinner, like, how about you get out the Legos? When they're done, they clean them up, they go back up so they don't just have access to them all the time, because that comes a treat. And like, okay, I need you to be quiet for an hour. Here's the Legos. And then they use their imagination, they build, there's all those things that they need, right? The hand-eye coordination, all those things that they need. And so that's a specific thing that you can do as a parent, is like the TV and the sensory and all that stuff, they're going to get plenty of that in their life, right? Let's go. Again, we're going back to like when my dad was a kid, you know, like how do we get back to those times? Thank God we still have the luxuries of internet and we still have like running water and electricity and stuff like that. But and then here's a beautiful thing to do with your kids. And somebody gave me this advice when we started doing it. Oh, so huge. We thought we had to do everything for our kids. You know, like, well, we're just going to do it all for you. Like, oh, I want a PB&J. Like, oh, no, I have to make it. Try letting your kids do certain things, and it's going to take a little longer, and it's going to take you a while to get into it. Dude, my kid makes scrambled eggs now, right? Like,
nice.
Like, you know, you get them to a point because they want to. Like, hey, empty the dishwasher. And you train them to start doing those things instead of you doing it as a parent all the time.
Yeah.
One, it keeps them busy. It keeps their momentum going in their brain, so they're not just bored, wondering what can they do and causing anxiety. But they go and then they're helpful. They're part of the team. They feel part of the family. They have responsibility. You're just building these blocks for them for generations, hopefully for years to come.
What's your message for a father who feels unprepared or inadequate or insecure about being a father?
Well, you're not alone would be my first message, because there's no book. We didn't go to school to become a dad or a parent. So we didn't learn that thing like in public education. So we have to, again, I go back to what I said earlier, it's our responsibility and duty to find out some best practices. There's lots of doctors and therapists, and there's tons of information out there. Just start looking at it, what's been tested and proven, right? Don't just like take some Yahoo on X's word for it. Like, get some verified information out there. Two of the most important things is you always try your hardest to come from a place of love, right? I think that we have so much stuff in our lives, including myself, like whether it's pride, whether it's selfishness, all these human things. But if we can stop and everything that we do is out of a place of love, they'll feel that, right? Like Maya Angelou, they'll never remember what you say or did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. They'll feel loved. And I think so many children are hungry, and maybe that's why they fall into this, for that feeling loved,
Feeling loved.
I just want to feel loved. I struggled with it because my parents were, old school. It was very hard. Never saw them physically, emotionally. Love was just, it's not part of the deal.
Yeah.
So it was hard and understanding that. And then parents, this has been a life changer for our family. I said it earlier, meet them where they are. It's easy to not understand why they're on the floor throwing a fit because their thing broke, right? For us, it's easy as an adult to be like, oh, well, we can just rebuild it. Their brain's not there yet. They can't put that together. Mm-hmm. And your relationship and your bond will be so strong if you just go pick them up, hold on to them and says, I'm so sorry. I understand. That's so frustrating. Oh, you're upset right now. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be able to rationalize in that moment because their lid's been flipped, so to speak, right? Like they're in an emotional freak out and all the emotions which they can't regulate are just on high alert. And when you comfort them, instead of being like, hey, it's not a big deal, stop crying. That's not the approach. I'm telling you, parents, it's the best way to parent and build that bond, make them feel secure, have less tantrums, have less things that you're getting frustrated. It throws our cortisols, right? Like the kid's going and all of a sudden your heart rate increases, your blood pressure increases. Now your physical health is changing because of this. And then by you going and holding that child, I'm saying me, picking that child up, not only does it comfort him, it slows my heart rate because I have that child against my body and I'm just holding that child. And it's those moments that we have to look at as like, that's how we should treat all children. Right? Like no matter where they are, same with law enforcement. I'll go back to that. Like that's how you have to look at these children. They're humans. They're human beings. They're a life. And we need to look at them as that, as a actual human, and put ourselves in their shoes.
How have you worked through the anger and rage? I'm sure when you first started, it was like every day was a stress hormone fury for you. And I've asked this question a few times to different guests that have been through really challenging stuff. The fuel that made you start The Innocent is not the fuel that you operate from now, or is it? And if so, how did you transmute pain and anger and rage to a more loving acceptance to be fuel? Man.
Well, this is the most difficult conversation out of all of it because it's something I haven't conquered yet, right?
I don't know. How could you? Yeah. How could you not be in rage about these mentally ill people harming children? How could we not be in rage about it?
Yeah, no.
We wouldn't be human if we didn't have rage.
Right.
But then but rage can't get us to the love. Rage can't get us to the solution. It's such a paradox.
It can assist. It can assist because it creates an energy. You talked about energy, right?
Yeah.
So an energy forms inside of you and now you don't know where to direct it. So you take that energy that's harnessed up. That energy is really like you can start to shake, that kind of energy. How do you direct it to a actionable item, right? And so that's kind of like, and we can get into it. What we're creating is basically an avenue for the people who are enraged to take action in their own community and first get educated so they can use their voice to share truth like you're doing right now, get people on board like 756 with Aaron to bring the community together to now raise the funds to bring in professionals to train their communities, law enforcement officers in different communities to build their task force to go out and hunt predators. So your energy and the anger can actually be channeled into change and impact. And then soon you'll be able to, in our community link, find certain ways of how to take impact in your own, like actually literally take like training and then take that training to become now an hour presenter, 12 hours to 1 hour to present to your friends or family or coworkers, and then keep that movement going to where it becomes bigger. And now you're able to go into city council meetings. And then you're speaking from an educated perspective to talk to city council, the people who think they have the power, but we actually brought them into that position. So we actually have the power, but then holding them accountable for the actions in the judicial system and all that stuff. So there's ways the energy. This wouldn't even be what it is if I didn't have that. Right.
Yeah. Now, there's a sacred rage. There's a sacred anger.
Sacred rage.
It's sacred.
But then going back to how, I think you said, how do I handle it? Man, if I had that answer, I think we could cure so much issues in our society. And trust me, I've put a lot of energy and time, thought, advice seeking, books, professionals into trying to figure it out, man. And I haven't, but I can tell you there's a lot of things that have helped.
What's helped the most?
Oh man. For me, it's my faith, and it's my journey in my relationship with incredible pure values that are resets. And then daily I get into the word, and it takes that anger and that chaos and all that noise, and it just shuts it up to start out my day. That's why I said the first hour of my day, I don't even look at my phone. It's complete peace. And it builds the foundation for the day to have the strength to go into the day with peace. So that's number one, probably the most is my faith, but there's also a certain meditation. But I do a lot of things, man, from red light therapy to all my electronic like therapies to my diet, my exercise, music. I do a lot of music type of healing, time with my kids where I can just unplug. I have boundaries on my phone.
Yeah.
Like there's all these things that I have to do to try to stay healthy. Now here's another one. This is important for first responders. Most first responders, whether it's firefighter, EMT, show up to a car accident, it's traumatizing. But when there's a child in the car, it's more traumatizing, right? So we're dealing with child crimes all the time, talking about it all the time and all these things. And so for me, it's hard not to carry around this just like, oh, I need to get this anger out. But also anger sometimes starts in sadness, and then sadness turns to anger. But the sadness this has been a super valuable tool for me. Not only just EMDR for anyone that's going through PTSD, but I used to travel mostly internationally when I have these experiences, and I would get stuck, man. I would be like, going to these places and seeing these kids and going through horrific things. And then I would dwell on it for days, right? And just be like in a sad place. And then all these things, and maybe it turned into hate or anger or rage or whatever. And it's okay to feel those feelings. You actually should feel those feelings, but for a limited amount of time, like don't live in it.
Yeah.
Set a timer, 10 minutes.
Do you celebrate when you catch a predator? Does a part of you rejoice?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because it relieves your anger and you know that you're doing so much good.
Well, I think it's like you put on all this practice and energy and training into a marathon, and then you cross the finish line. That's really what it's like. One thing I don't want to skip over though, because I think there's a lot of people out there potentially that might be dealing with some similar things. And it could be from, like having a miscarriage or being in a car accident with trauma and just life. I used to drink a lot, like that was just a part of my life. And at some point, it wasn't even really a decision I made. It just happened. But I quit drinking several years ago. And I think that's been really helpful for me to deal with it. Yeah. Because before I probably just, the things that I chose in my path because of the crazy hurt and things that I went through in my own life and trauma, it actually helps. Yeah, I get, for sure, it numbs it. So people think, oh, it helps. Yeah. It's a Band-Aid that helps. It's not actually healing those deep chainsaw wounds, right? And so for me, now, it's not that I'm 100% sober. I mean, there might be one or two times a year at a wedding or something, I'm not against drinking or anything. But I do find that like through some of the therapies and things that I've been on is like, in order to heal, you have to feel. And I think that's hard for people because this the pain that we're trying to hide. We don't want to feel that hurt. We don't want to feel that sadness. And we don't want to feel, those are tough. We want to feel happy and joy and excitement and inspiration. So if I'm constantly feeling this, I'm going to hit the bottle or something because I don't want to feel that, right? So if there's people out there, one thing I think that helped me tremendously, and it's not like, again, I didn't make this choice, but I can see it now. I wasn't able to really get through things because I was just putting the Band-Aid on them every day or numbing it and trying not to feel.
So good. Well, the nervous system is divinely intelligent. The somatic experience in our enteric nervous system to the gut-brain axis to our neural tree to our prefrontal cortex to our default mode network. I'm just throwing out scientific jargon, but it's real. Like we are an electrical system. So if we're taking in an alcohol that diffuses our electrical system, like I said earlier, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be moved and transmuted. So that energy that you were spending pushing down eventually, like a pressure cooker, you have to take the top off and then there's an explosion. Was there an explosion when you stopped drinking?
I don't think there was an explosion because it wasn't like, hey, I'm going to stop drinking. I just did. I wasn't sleeping well.
Yes.
I didn't feel great. I didn't have the energy in the morning.
You had the slow release valve on the pressure cooker then.
No, I don't. Trust me, because I could in a different whole conversation. And I deal with this on a daily basis still right now.
Yeah.
Like right now, and I'm working. Yeah. It's probably one of my highest priorities to deal with. So understand this. I carry around a lot of hate and anger, and I don't want to, right?
Yeah.
Like I want that out of my body. I try everything I can, but it's hard when you're pissed off because there is evil out there doing horrific things to innocent children. These aren't criminals that chose this life. And that's a whole nother story. And that can be fixed too. But you're talking about a child who did not choose this to happen. And then you're talking about people doing sick things to change the trajectory of their life. And when you look at these individuals, that's part of the frustration. And I can take it even further. And this is what we talked about before we got on here. This is where I start to really get upset. And I'm going to not get really upset right here. But this is where a lot of my frustration comes from right now. And this is why I need the people to come together. And we need to get the power back because we can go into a department. And I have an officer who works for me that's done this stuff for a dozen years. They literally wrote the book, the training book that we train all law enforcement. We're training our 18th department this year, just in this year. And he'll build these cases, man, and he'll date these predators nights and weekends while he's watching Netflix with his wife, like avoid entrapment, follow all 10,000 rules that we have to follow. This game, train, run the marathon. And then he shows up and gets arrested and you cross the finish line and you high five and all that stuff. And man, all that hard work and time and energy, we get it. It's solid. This guy's going to go wait for so long because I'm going to hand deliver like this case on a platter. It's beautiful. Can't believe it. I'm so proud of the skills I've built and the experiences I've had and the mistakes I've made that I've learned from. And then a prosecutor says my caseload is too big, so I can't take this to trial. I'm just going to plea out with the defense attorney. We'll come to an agreement and let's just get this checked off my box, right? That happens a lot all over the United States, trust me. In addition to that, there are some amazing prosecutors who are like, I've done a lot of these cases. I know these children. I've interviewed these children with forensic interviewers. Like, I'm going to freaking fight for all of these. I'm going to put all those guys behind bars for as long as possible. And I'm going to stay up all week this week because this is so important to me. And I'll take it all the way to trial and I'll put it in front of the jury and I'll put them on the stand and we'll do all this, right? And then the judge says, okay, you found him guilty, but let's just give like 2 years.
Why?
I wish I knew.
What can you guess?
Oh, man.
If you had to guess.
Two pieces. The prosecution side, I don't even know how to, I don't. And this is why I get frustrated. So when they say they have a big caseload and they just want to get it off their plate, that means that something else has taken a priority over that. So about 20% of these will go to trial. So those other 20% must be a worse child sex crime case, is what I'm hoping. But I don't know if that's the truth. So what's taking a priority over protecting our children? So I get frustrated with that. Like, you know what happens? And I'll get back to why. Now my officers and all the officers that we've trained all over the United States, you know what they do? What a waste of time. Why should I keep putting in all this effort to go build these cases, to do these proactive, to prevent this from happening when it gets right to the goal line and the ball gets dropped? And then these guys end up literally 6 months in a county jail for showing up to meet an 11-year-old, to rape an 11-year-old in his car at 41 and has an 11 and 9-year-old in their home. We could have prevented him from potentially going and abusing his own stepchildren that are living in his own trailer. So there's where my frustration is. So I know this all stemmed from I know you want to know why, and this all stems from the anger that I carry around every day. I don't know why, and that's why I think the people need to start asking that.
Yeah.
I think the people, all those steps I talked about earlier, get educated so that you can show up to city council and quit putting these people in, because you need to be able to go into public records. You need to see who was arrested for what. You need to follow that trial. You need to see how they were convicted, who handed out that sentencing, because it's a suggested sentence, 25 years, and they're giving them 2. But it's suggested 25, right? And then you need to start asking that. And if they don't have a solid reason, like, oh, there was entrapment. Okay, yeah, I believe in the Constitution. So, but if there's none of that, and it's just because you're lazy or you're not prioritizing our children, or maybe you're involved, because I know of a case in Utah, and you can Google it, of a judge who CSAM is child sexual abuse material, who was letting off all these cases because he was involved, and they found CSAM. So he's now under investigation. I don't know where that case is, so I can't talk too much about it, but I don't know why. Here's what my opinion is, and I'm trying to stay calm about this, but here's my opinion. You're either for protecting children or you're not for protecting children, right? That's pretty simple, cut and dry. So if you're not for protecting children, then potentially I might have to look into you. And why are you getting so defensive? And I've actually spoke, and I will call them out. I've actually publicly, and put it out there in the light for a political official who says these things are happening and gets so defensive about that. This isn't happening here. This is not happening here.
Who is it?
Man, I don't know if I want to start that one.
Do you fear saying the person's name?
Yeah, because they have a lot of authority in the community. Mm-hmm. And I don't doubt the fact that this person could potentially, actually has authority to do certain things and come after me or cause things to come. So it's fear, right? Because of a position, right? You're talking about an elected official in law enforcement. So there you go. There's your pieces. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to call this person out, but this person knows who it is if they're listening right now, that I've gone up in front of the community where he showed up and the other opponent showed up, and he continues to go and say these things are happening. And I've sat with him and a senator in the state, and I asked him, and I said, look, here's the evidence. We went undercover online and we did these investigations, and there's a chief of police in your county who saw this evidence so much, said, well, we need somebody to do this full time. Let's host a training and let's bring all the people on. And potentially we should talk about, like, how can this nonprofit help fund your position to go proactively do this work? That's a chief of police in this county. And this person will continue to say it's not happening, so much that I had to show up in front of the community, and I had to pull out the statutes underneath the state's laws of human trafficking and to break it down under the subcategories of human trafficking and child sex trafficking and what people can be arrested for and the numbers that go along with it, and actually dumb it down as dumb as you can get. I'm sorry, but you have to dumb it down to say, like, voyeurism, sending illegal photos, a male grown adult sending a photo holding his private parts to a child under the age of 18. Exploitation falls under human trafficking, the tip of the umbrella. Then I had to go into the actual jail, and I had to type Control F, find, and then just type the word child in and see all the people that are not been arrested for a child crime. They're actually sleeping in that jail that night for child sex crimes. And it's not happening. So when people start defending it to no limit to publicly state that these things are happening, I cut them slack for a moment. And I say, I get it. You can't know everything about everything, but you should have somebody on your team that's an expert in one thing. Now, I don't deal with homicides. I don't deal with robberies, domestic violence. For the last half a decade, all I've done is child sex crimes and human trafficking and child sex trafficking. I know a little bit about it, and I'm in your office behind closed doors. At this point, you can have a little bit of humility and say, like, hey, look, man, I don't know much about this, but I'm willing to learn. And maybe if this is a problem and you actually have the evidence, then maybe we can make this a priority.
I think, thank you for your anger, your sacred anger, because it's actually so valid, right? And I told you before we hit record, I want to shine light on the darkness. And it's just part of the Hawkins scale of how we process emotions, that anger is more powerful than despair. And I agree with you that most anger comes from sadness. How could any human being listen to what you've shared and not be inherently stricken with grief and sadness. And then how could it be possible that you would not feel anger and then acceptance and then willingness and courage to change things? I just can't imagine it. We spend so much time in the United States with this MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again, vaccine discussion and food dyes and nutrition. This is the bottom of the MAHA triangle. Family, protecting children, protecting the innocence of children gets to be a fundamental part of MAHA. It's not just about food. The reason I'm saying this is because there's this cognitive dissonance where, especially we saw it during the COVID theater, we saw it with the mask wearing, we saw it with the lockdowns. There is a psychological operation that is happening in our country, and it's happening all the time. And they depend, when I say they, I mean the controllers of this psychological operation, they depend on our subservience. They depend on us to ignore it. They depend on us to be stuck in fear. We don't have to be stuck in fear. All we have to do is just have the courage to exhale and just talk about it and just share it. That's really where this whole thing begins. How do we get this conversation in Congress? How do we get this conversation in front of RFK Jr.? How do we get you and RFK Jr. doing a podcast? How do we make that happen? I'm already spinning wheels on how I can do my best to make that happen, because it's a conversation, because it's not about food, because it's not about stuff that's like so overwhelmingly grief-stricken to the nervous system. The reason why it's not talked about and why I wanted to talk about it is because I don't care if it takes courage. I don't care if it's uncomfortable. We've done a whole episode with Eric Klopper on circumcision and how circumcision just annihilates the sexuality of boys and how that came from basically religious rites, like the act of cutting the tip of a penis off. There are so many things that get normalized. I see it on my phone all the day. We're swimming, you guys, in this soup of pseudo connection and hypersexualization of women. We're really in a sick society. We are. And paradoxically, at the same time, Nate, we're in this beautiful creation of God. We're in this beautiful space where if we just lean towards the wisdom of God and lean towards the wisdom of our Creator and really the irrefutable laws of nature, like gravity and love and connection and all these pieces that we've described today that you've done a great job describing, I really do believe we can turn the tide here. But a lot of people listening might say this, and I wonder how you feel about this, because this is a big question for me when I was angry at God. God, why would you let these children be abused? Why would you let these children get abused and killed? Why would you let these horrific things happen, God? It was a prayer for so long. I'm like, what is this all about? In psychedelic journeys and breath work, and you know what came back to me? You don't get to know. It's all a mystery, because the mystery of God is so vast and there's so much to just accept that God wouldn't allow this to happen unless God wanted to experience God in unlimited ways. And the only thing that it's directing us back towards is love. These heinous crimes, these heinous sexual acts, these crazy things, unimaginable things that are occurring, unimaginable, the kind of tragedies that are happening to children. The only sense that brings me peace, that I can rest at night and be with my children, is thank you, God, for my life. Thank you, God, for the mystery that you preside and that you give to us over. And also, God, I pray for the souls of these children. I pray for the healing of these people. Because it's very sad. It's very sad that children suffer. And also that the people who harm these children are deeply suffering. They're deeply suffering people. And so the only power that I have that brings me peace is to be an amazing father and husband for my family and my children, and to be a good man. That's the only thing that brings me peace. If we allow ourselves, to the audience, to get stuck in anger and just to wallow in anger and try to go kill all these people and do the death penalty and all this stuff, we're just feeding the very kind of spiritual sickness that created them in the first place. We're just feeding the spiritual sickness. And it's hard to swallow. This is why atheism exists. I understand why atheism exists. But to quote my mentor, Paul Chek, you'll never find an atheist in a foxhole. When your life is under threat and when you really are faced with death, you will seek the divine. You will seek meaning. You will seek understanding of the mystery. And the thing that I keep coming up against, I just had it in a ceremony recently. I wanted to know. I was like, God, why? Why does this happen? What is this all about? Like this demanding 17-year-old inside of me. And what came back was, it's not your job to know. It's not your job to know. You don't need to know. You don't get to know. There's a mystery that I could never explain to you with words. There's a way in which the universe and our creator does things that we could never actually understand. My grandfather, who was a brigadier general in the Marine Corps, he stopped me in the hallway once when I was 11. And he looked right at me. He's like, Josh, you going to church? And I was like, no, Grandpa, these people are putting their hands in the air. It's kind of weird. I don't trust them. And he's like, well, what if I told you that the mind of man could never conceptualize that there's no such thing as a beginning, middle, and end? And here I am, 45 years old, telling you something that he told me when I was like 11 years old. And it's just as profound. My grandpa dropped the ultimate wisdom of God on me when I wasn't even a teenager yet.
Wow.
And it brings me so much peace to say that because, you know, I care about you as a man, as a fellow father. I don't want you to suffer. I don't. But yet, who else is going to do it? If you don't do it, who else is going to do it? And how can we create an environment where your voice and your efforts are put into the stratosphere so that we can course correct this sickness that creates the very abuse itself without you having to suffer? I think we do that through media. I think this conversation is a part of that. And I think we actually just allow ourselves to feel the sadness of what we're talking about today. If we allow ourselves to feel the sadness of this, then anger will come. And then we can work the whole Hawkins scale and get all the way to love. I really believe that. We don't have the conceptual mind to be able to take in why these things fucking happen. I can't even understand it, nor do I ever know that I will. I don't think I ever will understand why these things happen. And that's part of the mystery of God. What do you make of that?
Wow. That's a lot to unfold. And thank you for sharing all that. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I could go in so many directions with it. I've asked this question myself a lot of times just from my own personal experiences, things that I've experienced in life and questioned, right? And then I could come up with a laundry list of things to like, well, maybe it's this, that. One of them you mentioned was being grateful, right? Like you're grateful, right? Sometimes I see things and I go, oh man, my heart breaks. I'm so grateful for my health that I'm able to just see and I'm not blind. And I tell my kids that woman at the theme park is in a wheelchair because she can't walk. Shouldn't we just be grateful that we can walk? Okay, there's one thing, and I could get really deep on this one if you really wanted to, but we don't need to know, and I don't know if we ever will know.
I think that's the way it's designed.
Yeah.
We don't get to know.
And if there's people out there who believe, actually, I'm going to stop there. There's no denying this fact. At some point, our heart stops beating, our eyes close, and we leave our body. We die. That's what we call it. It's called death, right? 100% guarantee we will face that, right? And if you lived 100 years here on earth alive with your family and all that stuff and had all these great experiences, when that moment comes, when you enter into death, how long will you be dead for? Pretty long, I imagine. So for those people who believe that death isn't the end, that they go to heaven in this other place where there is no time like clocks, months, dates.
There is no beginning, middle, or
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
When you think about that on a much bigger scale, then even the 100 years that we suffered on earth mean nothing if you get a free pass to eternity in peace, right? And so we get so focused that life is what it's all about. This moment, this week, this month, this time of season in my life, right? And we get focused on that. That's the most important thing. And so without going into the long list of other reasons why I think that happens, because one, there's a girl that works for us. You may have communicated with her, Bree. Extraordinary human, extraordinary light, making real change. And she was trafficked for many years. But when you ask her why, because that's what needed to happen for her to go into change communities, right? And to go speak. And her story is now literally firing up people in the House of Representatives because she goes and speaks in front of them. That might be one reason why it happened, right? You know what else she does? She inspires other people to work through forgiveness. Because when I asked her, how do you ever forgive someone? And when you listen to her approach to forgiveness and the healing and what it does for you, hopefully encourages other people and encourages other people to speak up who have hid their story for many years. So there's a long list of reasons why people might go through things, but do we really know? I don't know. One thing I don't want to forget to talk about, because you, in the tail end of what you were saying, is people have this natural thing about love, right? And I think that this is what I think. And you talked about media and you talked about spreading it out there. And if this is the one thing that I hope comes from today, and I didn't even think about it until you started talking about it. 20 years ago, maybe, I saw the Dalai Lama, and it was after the earthquake in Haiti. And he doesn't do media, right? And he got on, I think it was the Today Show, and he said, I don't do media, but I'm doing it today because I want to share how important and how powerful media is. Haiti is one of the poorest countries in the entire world, devastated by an earthquake. 150 children without parents overnight, right? 150,000 children without parents overnight. And the media picked this story up. And within 24 hours, the love of humanity donated $40 million to the poorest country in the planet. Because humans innately love. They do. It's all the things that happen to us that makes us hold that and carry other things. So through media, we can be aware and educated of certain areas that need our love and channeling our love through certain areas. So what you're saying is, I think that the media is a powerful piece. And I also think that it's important for people to focus on the light, because when we talk about all this other stuff, and even in our organization, we can get caught up on focusing on the predator, focusing on the trafficker.
Rightly so.
Right. But if you focus, here's two things I want to share with the people, and I want to thank the people. Because the people, when you say, how do I deal with it? There's definitely people who throw nonsense at me, but there are an incredible amount of people out there who selflessly give and want to be a part, throw on, or, 5K events, rock events, whatever it may be, but they go out, and what's really incredible is I get to meet a lot of people who are really amazing people that do really amazing things. And there's a lot of wealthy people out there that buy yachts and jets and all that stuff. And there are some amazing people who just find a lot of amazing organizations and give them the fuel they need to make impact. And so when I see that light that's coming from the behind shining into the dark, I'm reminded that it's not all dark, because sometimes I just see dark.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the reminder is that there's a lot of amazing people out there. And not only is there light from behind backing all this, I get to see the success stories. I got to see like child being trafficked, child being healed, child on their way to an amazing life and journey, right? So we can't just focus here the whole time, And it's cool to be like, oh, the kid's getting healing. Well, we want to prevent the healing. That's why we do what we do. We don't think a kid should ever have to go through the healing process. Like, let's just make sure that doesn't happen. But we also can help them go on a path and inspire them and encourage them and give them the tools and things that they need to be successful in life. So there's a lot of light in all this. There's a lot of light. And that's our logo's black and white and certain things. And you see that there's darkness, but we can't forget about the white in the light. And that's the people. And they're the ones that are really the light powering all this and spreading, because it's a spread of darkness and we have to just stop that darkness. So thank you to the people, man.
Yeah. And they can donate right now on the website. The name of the site is theinnocent.org. So it's on the screen right now, y'all. Whether it's $1 or 100,000 or anywhere in between. It's funny. We don't think twice about spending like $8 on a Starbucks coffee. Well, I do actually. I don't do that. Yeah. I don't drink coffee. But think about all the ways that you've ever wanted peace in your life, and think about how you could give peace to a child.
Mm.
And just tune into that in your own heart, in your own body. And just ask yourself, what are you willing to give?
Mm.
What are you willing to give to support the peace of a child? I mean, I wish I could give $1 million in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
That would be amazing. I will definitely be donating. I will post when I donate on Instagram. And I just want to thank you for your life's work. My prayer for you, and if you don't mind, I've never actually done this on a podcast ever, but I would like to close with a prayer.
Oh, man. Wow.
So just connecting to your heart. And if prayer is a trigger word for you, then just make this a declaration about the peace in our world. God, we thank you for the ultimate mystery that you provide for our life, for our children. And we pray, God, that we know you hear our prayer, and we know our prayer is sacred. And we thank you for the relief of this suffering, this unnecessary suffering of these children. We accept the lesson that you provide to us through this lifetime. We honor the fact that we are created, that you are our creator. And we surrender to your wisdom. And may every soul be eased of suffering that is unnecessary, that is outside of your wisdom, God. And we thank you for hearing our prayer. We ask that you hold all of these children, these millions and millions of children across the world, in your arms. And we ask for your grace. We ask for your power. And we ask for your presence in the lives of Nate and of all these men and women that can appear and will appear before Congress this year and in the following years, so that the tide of this energy that is wanting to be healed, this sickness that is wanting to be healed, God, we ask for your power and your grace. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. Wow. Thank you, man.
It's a tough one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Y'all share this podcast with somebody that is completely in unconscious incompetence. Somebody that doesn't even know they don't know that this stuff exists. And share this as far and as wide as you can so that we can ease the suffering and we can return to so many levels of peace that we know is possible. So until we see you again, I'm wishing you love, wellness, but most importantly, peace and power. You cannot have power unless it comes from peace. We'll talk with you soon.